Wes Streeting there, supposed to be the man that is in charge of the NHS. Things seem to be going from bad to worse. They keep claiming they've got loads of appointments being made, but of course anyone that talks to me, and anybody I'm sure that you speak to, says to me, oh yeah, I've had 5 appointments made and they all get cancelled. So they might be making millions of appointments, but they're not actually keeping them.
No, and I think that's probably massaging the numbers, I think they call it, aren't they,
yeah,
when you get
can say that.
Appointment.
They've now got, this is the front page of The Guardian of all people, the North of England editor Josh Halliday says this: Britain's medieval levels of health inequality are having a devastating effect on the NHS, with the health service estimated to be spending as much as £50 billion a year on the effects of deprivation. 50 billion! And it's not doing anything. People are saying hospitals are witnessing a chilling trend of vulnerable people, young and old, deliberately self-harming to secure an overnight stay. Concern has also been raised about rising rates of Dickensian illnesses, including scabies, rickets and scarlet fever. That's the reality of what's going on, right?
Totally, and these will be taking place in some of the most deprived areas in society, where unemployment is probably high, where there is obesity, where there is low levels of jobs and education, and environmentally damaged areas for a number of reasons, antisocial behaviour, ... So it is a worry. What's even more worrying, though, is I think when the Health Secretary announced this new 10-year plan for the NHS, I mean, how many 10-year plans have we heard for the NHS, where funding is going to be rewarded to doctors on the back of their performance, judged by patients, which I think is questionable how that works anyway. And if you are not performing as well as you should, you're going to get less money. Now, I can understand that.
Yeah, how can you possibly make ghettoisation an actual government policy?
Exactly.
Because that's what they're doing,
Exactly. What you need to have is in the worst performing areas where patient satisfaction is low, don't need to necessarily tie doctors' pay to that. I think they get paid enough as it is, actually. I think with all their strikes and with the increase of money.
They don't.
They certainly
want more.
They always want more. But I think, pay is not an issue. But in the worst performing NHS trusts, where you're seeing this kind of either new disease or old disease that makes a return, or where there is low patient satisfaction, you need a good quality, one that NHS trust, one that rates high, to come in and manage the bad guys, manage the bad trusts. Sack the NHS bosses, get rid of the incompetency that's obviously been there for so many years, that's driven standards down, and allow the good authorities to take over the bad ones and drive standards up.
That's the problem, because, I mean, there's another piece of analysis, again, we're going to talk about later on the show. Taxpayers Alliance have come out with a fascinating study, and it's a bit in the Telegraph this morning, page 6. Welfare system is so generous that in some towns, 1 in 5 people receive disability benefits. Analysis have found the number of people claiming a free car because of disabilities quadrupled in the last 6 years. Across the country, almost 1 in 10 people receive personal independence payments, and I think we learned this last week, that 1,000 claimants a day are being added to that particular roster, which is why they have to do it. But have a look at this, right? The 10 local authority areas with the most claimants per 1,000 people were Blaenau Gwent, Merthyr Tydfil, Knowsley, Neath Port Talbot, Caerphilly, Hartlepool, Blackpool, Torfaen, Sunderland, Rhondda Cynon Taf, so many of those places in Wales, right? Where as high as in Blaenau Gwent, 211 people per 1,000, so over a fifth of them are claiming benefits. And so, you talk about Labour's success story. Labour have only ever run Wales, right? Wales has never been run by anybody else, and they are the worst performing places in Britain, and the places with most people claiming benefits.
Exactly. And the Prime Minister, again, going back to the BMI, I suppose, had the audacity at Welsh Labour conference at the weekend to say that Wales was best placed by having a Welsh First Minister to work with the Labour government.
No matter how many interviews he gives about how honest he's going to be and about how sorry he is and about how dreadful he regrets things, he still goes up to a lectern and talks absolute cobblers and makes out that the economy is going well when it clearly isn't, makes out that, he's keeping the country secure, which he clearly isn't, that he's making sure the borders are going to be policed, which he clearly isn't doing. And he just keeps coming out with lie after lie after lie, because that's what they are, and people have had enough of it.
Exactly. And he tries to then bring Nigel Farage into the equation and say that the only, I think, Clacton he knows is the 210 at Ascot or something like that. Some ill-judged joke.
And I mean, and also his attacks on Nigel Farage and reform have done the exact opposite. They've just made Nigel Farage more popular.
Yes, and because you can't. So, for example, I mean, I'm not sponsored by reform. I'm not a parrot for reform. But just one policy idea that they've come up with is taking, I think, the first £20,000 of your income out of tax altogether. Now, the Tories and Labour have both said
which, to be fair, Richard Tice has been banging on about for 2 years, 3 years.
And look, Labour and the Tories have said that's fantasy economics, it's uncosted, it's unfunded. Well, let's be perfectly honest, this Labour government have made some pretty unfunded cost commitments.
Well, everything they do is unfunded.
Exactly. And so if it is the case that actually what you need when you need to tackle the welfare bill, or if you need to tackle the problems in the NHS, if it is the case that actually you can get a hell of a lot of people off that welfare bill and into work.
When Richard Tice first said it, I think he first said it on this show, you know, it was a good idea then, it's a good idea now. Why wouldn't you do it?